but I can share my screen, so I think I can do all that.
Excellent.
Hey, Phil.
Hello, hello. What are we here for again? Didn't I just leave here?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Oh, no.
We left. We left and hit the road, and I'm where our meeting is. It's at a church, and I'm in the nursing mother's room.
Oh, I hope you don't get kicked out.
So you're flying planes again?
Only with another pilot right now because of that. I was concerned about.
Your heart.
the
What planes?
Cessnas,
Oh, so just, okay.
little stuff.
Not like John used to have a Cessna.
Ah,
Yes. And. Not on the thing. I probably said it to her.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he owned a plane with Larry Hogan, the attorney, who's retired. Yep. So let's see, Aaron on the phone, we still got 5 minutes. So how did this morning go? Who was here? You were here, Bill? I heard it was good.
Phil said he never left.
Was it good?
Yeah, I just took a nap in the other room. No. Yeah, it's good.
Good. Well, Aaron's gonna be our chair for this one. But I'm not gonna jet today for this one. I'm not gonna leave as soon as we vote him chair. Who's gonna be vice chair?
Hmm.
You? That's good. Cool. Need to do some recruiting for this one.
Yeah, looking at the list, there's a lot of names from the past on the list back there.
Is that the list from the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just where we kind of brainstormed some names. And I invited Mary Margaret, if y'all met now from the room.
Andrew Riddle would be really nice to have in this room, I think. So are you working up here? Like, you work in the city, you just work up here, you run up here, what?
I have
It's not here.
Oh, cool.
been talking with Jamie.
Okay,
The space here, I basically was just looking for a co-working type space.
yeah,
So I just formed my own real estate consultancy.
okay.
So I have a background in land planning and development.
Oh, cool. Well, there we go. We don't need Andrew.
Well, I still learn every time I talk to Andrew, so.
Yeah.
Great. And so got to know Jamie, and so she mentioned this morning when I saw her, she's
Cool.
like, maybe you should come this afternoon.
Yeah,
So I have an interest in all things, you know, related to our downtown and making it better.
hello, Aaron.
A lot laid out like this, huh?
Yeah, I haven't even looked at that yet.
Inventory downtown.
Ah, good. What is on our agenda?
So these are all the businesses.
I believe so, in the district, yeah.
So is it organized in any special order? I see the addresses are mixed up.
I think, yeah, geographically. Oh, no, you're right. There it is.
I don't know.
267 of them.
That's Daniel.
Good, buddy.
You guys aren't allowed to sit next to
Well,
each other.
That's true, we are.
Side conversations during the meeting. I want one of you on one side of me, one on the other.
Hey, Caroline, can you tell me who all's in the room?
Daniel, Bill, Aaron, me, Nancy, John, Sam, Mary Margaret.
Yep.
Mary Margaret.
Thank you.
Jerry.
Jerry.
Oh, Jerry.
Here. Give them this.
Good group.
If anybody else comes in, just let me know.
I will. Anybody else supposed to come? Probably not.
That sounds like it's about everybody, so we can go ahead and get
It's 4.
started.
Call it to order.
Find my page.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the agenda to share my screen.
First, we have the approval of minutes.
Does everybody have a copy?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't need to pull it up on the screen.
Yep. We got Kathy Bragg on Zoom.
Oh. Okay. Any kind of motion for the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes unless anybody has any discussion.
Jerry and Nancy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, cool. Downtown team work plan, Jamie. Or so the
Okay.
first thing we do need to do is do a
Chair.
chair and vice chair. And I know that Aaron volunteered a few months ago to be chair of this, and John Ryan has volunteered to be vice chair. So I will make that motion to appoint Aaron chair and John Ryan vice chair. Anybody else wants to do it? You wanna do it? You wanna do it?
With second, if that's a motion.
That's a motion, buddy.
I'll second.
Daniel seconded that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, cool. So you get to run the meeting now. But I'm not gonna leave this. But I'm not gonna leave every time either from here.
Appreciate it.
All right, I'll pull this up. Okay, so some of y'all were in our meeting this morning, and what we've been doing is trying to put together our work plan for Main Street. And by Main Street, I mean the Main Street organization, not just the Main Street district in Hendersonville. And so I've got I'm pulling the notes from the community character meeting from this morning and what is discussed here into one place, but I think we'll be able to go through in this committee a little bit quicker on some of the things. But what we've been trying to do is make sure that what we're doing is in line with the comprehensive plan, which also included a downtown master plan. And what I would envision this committee probably will be doing a lot of the things that are a part of the downtown master plan that's in the comp plan. So these are just kind of the agendas for today. So the first thing I've got is what the vision is for the Gen H comprehensive plan, which was adopted by council. And we can just want to make sure that what we're doing in our committees can kind of revert back to the bigger picture from the comprehensive plan. And then y'all can hear me okay, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And then the next part that I've got are the goals and objectives that are outlined in the downtown master plan that's in the comprehensive plan. So these are the goals and objectives for the entire comprehensive plan, but then they're discussed specifically on how they match up with the downtown plan rather than the overall comprehensive plan discussion. I'm not going to go through individually on all of them, but just we can revert back to that if we're not sure if something's in line with what we're wanting to do. But kind of the meat of the discussion is what we need to do with our the standards of the North Carolina and the National Main Street is update our vision statement, which in the Main Street approach they call it the economic positioning statement. And so I've taken what we've talked about over the last couple of months in our subcommittees and created a draft for it, and anything that's in red or yellow were comments from the committee members this morning, the Community Character Committee. And so then we can see if there's any additional comments for this committee that we can go through today. So we've got downtown Hendersonville is celebrated as a place to stop, look around, and enjoy. It is the heart of cultural and community activities featuring safe, walkable streets, accessible, multimodal connections, and a robust infrastructure that supports thriving, authentic local businesses. Additional comments that we had about ways to include were here added in the bullet points. I didn't really want to get into figuring out how the words can fit in a meeting, but things that should be included as a part of that vision statement. And that's where we want downtown to be 5 years from now. So I'll kind of open that up if there's any reactions or feedback on things that are missing that should be included in here. And this is for the overall downtown program, not just this subcommittee.
I think one thing that is always implied with downtowns, but often overlooked, but I think it's important to include is it's the governmental center for both city and county. And so that in and of itself often attracts people downtown for meetings or whatever. But I think it's important to note that it is, because there are some cities that move their governmental entities to the edge of town, but ours is right downtown in both cases, and I think that's good.
Okay. Is there anything else?
This is Mary Margaret. I have one comment, and I don't know where to place, and that first line has been used intentionally, so I'm new to all this, but to me, downtown is a destination. And so that is something to keep in mind, because we're implying that, but I think it's important to also say that like it's someplace we want to draw people.
Yeah, and that came up this morning too. It might be in a future slide, but that did come up, so I think that's noted on that.
Downtown is the center of Hendersonville. I mean, that was clear from the Gen H plan that downtown is like the epicenter of everything. Everything goes out from there.
Mhm.
And the public definitely thought it set the tone for all of Hendersonville. It was like the most meaningful place.
Mhm.
Destination. Epicenter of commerce, I had written down.
Diversity's on there twice.
Is it?
On where twice?
For sign and on the yellow text.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what I'll do is take all of this that y'all have provided and then create a new one for when the board meets next week for a final discussion or approval. Is there anything else that anyone feels like either is a bad word for it or that should be added or removed from this that's not already included down below?
I mean, green space or parked trees, I mean, that came up repeatedly in the Gen H plan. I don't know how you wanna, maybe not any of those words, but that was a thing with the Gen
Yeah.
H.
Okay.
Do we have preservation in here at all?
Historic is in there somewhere.
Preservation, I mean, one thing we say all the time is change is happening, whether you like it or not. It's about how you shape and guide that change. So something to that.
The audience for this is gonna be ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
using this, like, the public's not gonna,
It's on the website and everything.
but it's for like to keep us on the rails for the next 2-5 years.
But learning something like honoring the past while embracing the future, or want to use this as a framework, right, to set the future, but not be limited by also the past.
And there's walkable streets is in here and accessible multimodal connections.
There it is.
We should get rid of that word. But
I mean, an important thing, whether we change the word multimodal though, but the connections, it's really the acoustic trail is like an important part, and that's a bike and walking thing.
so connections is a good word because you could,
Accessible connection.
you could
Yeah.
play off that word for like physical connections for people, moving people, and for people connecting with each other and,
Geography.
connecting the preservation with change, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can, wait. I think I can, I think that's a good, point on the connections, because I think we can, I can kind of, wordsmith some of that, and incorporate some of the things that people have talked about including on here.
Yeah, and you could do the connection thing, maybe, I mean, yeah, have it in here, but that would be a fun marketing campaign to use the word connections and then like, I don't know. There's a lot of words coming in my brain right now, so that'd be fun.
Well, maybe I'll, take a couple stabs at it, and I can send some thoughts back and forth to you, Caroline, if you wanna
Sure.
have some back and forth on some brainstorming on that.
We should do it in person though.
Oh yeah, I'll be home actually tomorrow now, because.
That's fine, like next week.
Yeah,
But Aaron too, Aaron.
okay, so we'll, I'll take some of this and put a few more things together for, to bring that to the board for next week, and incorporating what the committees have provided feedback for. Okay, so the next part is the mission statement. So this is what we do as an organization, the Downtown Advisory Board as a whole, and the Friends of Downtown. So not the individual subcommittees, but the board itself. We just need to do an update of that. So this in black was my initial just draft for it, and included we had some discussion and feedback about how we talk about the districts as a part of it. So I'm just going to kind of wordsmith a little bit on that to bring to the board for next week, as far as how we want to say that we're all of downtown Hendersonville, but it includes the multiple districts or something like that. But in general, anything else that this board or the Friends of Downtown organization does, we exist to preserve and enhance the vitality of downtown Hendersonville and the districts. through capital projects, placemaking, and policies to maintain a resilient, vibrant downtown. This is basically just if someone asks what the downtown board does, this is what this should be saying. Is there anything that we should be including in here that we don't already include?
When someone asks me what we do, mostly they're asking about the MSD tax. And so baskets, furniture, power washing. I mean, you don't want to put all that specific stuff in here, but
Sounds like that's investing, so preserve, invest
invest.
and enhance.
I think invest is a great word.
Enhance.
Cause that is the money piece.
Well, we do manage the budget for downtown. I mean, we hold the contract for the gardeners and I mean, waste management is city, but what do we do? We're going to have people that deal with the waste management in downtown, right?
Yeah, and we do
Okay.
extra trash pickups well above and beyond what everywhere else has.
So, I mean, I've been thinking about it like an event venue, for the last couple of years, like the whole thing. And then how do you manage that? Like moving people, holding events, allowing things. So, I mean, I'm not hitting on any good words here, but
To me, you're curating the experience.
curating. Hospice says co-creating the care experience. So just don't say that.
Mhm.
Curating, I love that word. The experience.
We brought it up this morning. I still don't like placemaking. I don't know what the heck that
It's a
means.
term of art for.
It's like so fuzzy. There's gotta be a better term for where you're going with that.
concise.
I don't know what it means.
Placemaking is just a big word in economic development yeah, it's a trade term.
It's all the small things that make you wanna visit someplace.
That's not something John Q even understands.
This is true.
It should be clear.
Fair. But I love the word though, but I've been around it and used it and had it thoroughly explained many times and seen examples, so. I mean, you could still use the word placemaking maybe, but. So if we apply for grants or if we apply for awards, we kind of need that word in there too, don't you think, Jamie? Or no?
I do think, I know the word, for me, it's just because it's a word that we use in all kinds of stuff in my line of work, but, I do think, especially because Hendersonville, more than almost anywhere, because the Main Street especially, and 7th Avenue with the streetscape zone, but, Main Street is kind of known as from the curved street, it's really a kind of a recognized placemaking place, because of the work that the city's done to make it somewhere where people want to hang out and want to stop, and it's a leisurely stop outdoors. It's not as car centric. I don't know if that really answers what you're trying to what your question is, but I do think it's a word that says what we do, but I understand that it might not be a word that other people might not understand. So I'm not sure.
And it's an internal, external sort of, something we need to, it's great for us because we get it and for, talking to those who know, it'll click with them, but to the public, which is your
Yeah.
point,
Fair point.
it's not gonna, but we need to come up with something else for them, something much.
Curating the experience is really great.
But also, I think part of that placemaking is, to me, is the marketing of it.
Yeah,
Some of the placemaking actually helps it easier to tell that story, but maybe you can just skip the placemaking and tell the story through marketing and it kind of works as well.
I mean, I think actually you should put the word stories down.
Because let's tell the story.
I guess what, can you tell me a little bit more on what you mean by that?
Oh, you don't have to use that word, just, we talk about storytelling all the time, so just like keep it in mind when you're doing this. You know what I would do if I were gonna do this? I would write a master list of all these words for both the vision and the mission statement, and I would take away what you're looking at and put it away. And I would go through and really think about mission versus vision, and I would like highlight one or the other and then write a new thing for mission or vision, one or the other. I mean, they're so interchangeable, but they're not, but it is kind of dumb, mission and vision. Like, we need to move on. We need to, I mean, I know we're not going to because everybody does it, but wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if like every nonprofit was like, we don't need both. Let's, like, this is kind of an all encompassing thing. Everybody deals with their mission and vision statements at the same time. And anyway.
Okay, well, we can move on from that then.
Yes.
Okay, so the next part is our economic development strategy. So this is getting into the individual committees. And so this downtown Hendersonville is a place for people to stop and enjoy. That's more or less, with some changes of some words, is kind of the mission of the Community Character Committee. So that is where that placemaking comes into play. With this committee, what I've got is as a play opportunities for authentic and diverse businesses to thrive. And I've got that, what my thought behind it was, and then y'all tell me what change or add or whatever, is largely what we've been talking about as far as building issues, which is why we got Kathy and Sam here, and building opportunity, or not opportunities, but all of our issues with buildings that we've been talking about for a while now. The ones that are delayed maintenance, that bad rent, things like that. That I feel like is an opportunity for businesses to thrive, as well as, you know, any type of trainings or opportunity fund, this office space, the office space, and then also the design guidelines that are in the comp plan. Is because we need a committee that will be the one where whenever that starts going with the planning board, everything, where this committee is kind of focusing on, because we just need kind of one committee to be the sounding board for it. But I think that kind of falls with the maintenance and everything, because it's the actual properties where businesses will be in is where I kind of feel like this committee kind of should go. Does that make sense?
Does, looking at my notes for like last year, we spent a lot of the time, there was like a lot of overlap between this committee and like the downtown advisory board. And that's like, it's okay if it serves to kind of like set up the downtown advisory board and make decisions easier because there's already been some discussion. But I think what we're trying to do is get some distinction and get like some focus with the subcommittees. So this is the time we're setting up our mission statements and vision statements and stuff to think about what can we actually achieve? What do we want to focus on? And so community character is kind of looking at, yeah. If this is going to be the focus of economic vitality, it needs a little direction right now. Like last year, we spent a lot of time talking about parking. Like that was most of my notes. Half of the time was just parking, and we came up with some ideas and stuff, but a lot of it, like I said, was just kind of figured out in downtown advisory board too. So, we're like the few specific topics that we talked about just now were pretty good focuses. And like what we did in community character this morning, we talked about forming the identity, kind of the character thing, so I wanna kind of like avoid these amorphous kind of ideas in this committee and talk about like, what can we actually do?
What do y'all think? So the community character is kind of the outside, experience in the outside space. And then this, if it is like on buildings, it's more of like private and public or private property and, like inside the building, but also including the issues on the outside of buildings. But does that kind of feel like basically if it's an issue of within buildings kind of falling into here, so that way the focus can be more on like vacant property.
We've identified some problems, yeah, like vacant property keeps coming up. Homelessness is something that like keeps coming up. That's something that like maybe we could actually actively do something about. The stimulating with like grants, stimulating businesses. I think that falls under this subcommittee's purview. Investing in infrastructure improvements, things like that.
Have we been doing the grants in the other committee?
They did the mural,
The art type.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. that's
When they
okay.
did the facade grants for
Facade.
art things, we like put it to the community character, but it kind of just case by case when somebody comes up with a grant proposal. I don't think we fielded it in this one. yet.
Yeah, right now they all go to community character. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to. If we wanted to, that might be a further down the line
Well, I
step.
feel like the art installation stuff probably, I mean, from my opinion, probably should go through both committees, because one is the aesthetics, so that should be community character. But the second part is if there's financial anything in it, then that's what we discuss as far as if that's a feasible thing to do.
I mean, should that even, well, this is crazy. I mean, the art thing is like a thing for that committee, like they're gonna be their thing, I assume.
Which is fine, but if there's gonna be money behind it, that should be in the economics.
What are we doing with events right now?
That's
Cause,
their own committee.
and that doesn't really come to us at all whenever somebody wants to do like a new event or something like that.
That comes to downtown advisory board. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we still have to approve the facade grants through downtown advisory. The mural thing should be in community character. The facade grants, I mean, that's offering an opportunity for an authentic and diverse business to thrive, you know? I mean, yes, the aesthetic, sure, but we have accomplished what we wanted to with the community character part of the intention of the facade grants from when we started it. So, I mean, we've already changed that grant to be not just facades, it's not facade grants anymore, it's historic.
So.
Glad Matthew's not here.
Whatever it is,
You know,
Even know.
Aaron is right, Jerry's right. Because we had a lot of discussion about public art this morning. There's already a committee. for it, all right? However, what you just brought up, you know, hasn't really. Nobody's gotten into the bushes far enough to even start thinking about this, but there is a fairly heavy investment factor in placing public art, right? That not all of which is gonna be covered by some grant. You know, that, you know, the committee talked there, the folks were talking about, that if we can get money for this, money for that. But the city also has a stake in any placement that the art goes. And it may be something that requires a financial perspective that is outside of community character. I don't know, but I think that question might come up from the city, right? When this thing starts moving a little bit, that, you know, we might need to address some other factors.
Yeah, and I think that that would, I think that probably should stay kind of soup to nuts from the beginning in the community character, and then when they start looking at costs, and that probably should be something that's, instead of coming over to this committee, the Economic Vitality Committee would be going to the downtown board and then probably to city council as part of like budgeting type of things on that. So then that way it's not just bouncing around in subcommittees.
Well, I think that's basically what I'm saying is like, it's good for the community character to look at these possible art installations or murals or what it might be. And essentially, they be the ones that decide like what fits the character of the community and the downtown. And then when it comes down to like, these are the ones we choose, then that would be something that would maybe move along more to us, where we decide like, what are they able financially to get to do this, whether it be through grants or money that we give out through Friends of Downtown or however it's done before. So it's almost like a 3-step process. Like they choose what it is, we decide if it's feasible monetarily, and then it can move into a board of just like, do we want to run with this or not?
Yeah, a mural for, $10,000 or $15,000 is one thing. Right, but a piece of sculpture put on Main Street or on 7th, is a $50,000 investment in the city, right? And so that money, not all of it's gonna come from a grant. It may take fundraising from private sources. Any number of things that I think, I think that we're gonna need some more horsepower when it comes to that to get the right.
Yeah, because it seems like each one of these committees are, I mean, obviously they are, but each one is designed for a very specific task. Community character is about the look and the aesthetic. Economic vitality is about essentially like financial, how things work on that level within the downtown. And then events, obviously about building events and doing events. And then the board is all about taking everything that was from all of those, voting on what is best for the city to move along to the city council. So I think if it's something like that, like an art installation or whatever it might be, community character, obviously go through your list of all the ones you have available to you, pick what you think is best for this area, fits us perfectly. And then moving on from there, if there's money involved in it, then that's something that maybe we should discuss as far as all the other projects that might be happening. Is it feasible to do?
So
before
it
it goes
sounds
on?
like you want to be able to prioritize and strategize. Because there's probably gonna be competing projects, right? They're
Yeah,
all going to the same money.
and
So-
utilizing each group for what it really is intended for. You know, if this is economic, then financial stuff, grants, money we're giving out, getting from the city, whatever it might be, are discussed here. Things
I
that,
guess that's not really how we've done it though, before, because like we don't necessarily specifically talk on like the budget in this committee. I mean, we can, but I guess
The
that's
budget,
like,
we do the budget in downtown.
yeah, that like I would kind of see each committee kind of like, if the Economic Vitality Committee has items that they want to budget for related to this mission here, then they would request what amount of money to go towards something. Same with community character. Because I
So
don't
we need to
feel
do
like,
that budget thing. We probably should do a certain month, March or something like that. To talk about the budget. I'm not talking about like ongoing, not just in 2025, but we need to continue looking at that. I mean, I know you do it and the city approves it and there's a whole thing, but it is good to know that is like the downtown thing. I think any financial things ultimately need to be approved by the full board. But also part of what we were trying to do with these committees is to streamline it instead of having to talk about it repeatedly. So, but Phil is right that a mural could, and we had talked about community character being the one to approve the HIP grants without it going to downtown, but I think it has to go to downtown because I think just financial stuff that goes out has to be approved by downtown. But Phil is right in that a mural is one thing. A 50 is low for like a bronze sculpture.
I'm being kind.
I know, but expenditures like that or fundraising for that or big installations like that. And maybe that'll come up in 3 years, maybe it'll come up in 2. It's probably not, like, we might have to see how that go. Like, when we get a big one coming at us, or somebody comes up with a big one, we might have to decide at that point how it's gonna like play out. Like, we don't know that. We don't know how that's gonna work when this, I don't know that we need to, I mean, there are some cases where I'd be like, we have to decide this now, but that's a whole other endeavor for downtown. We hadn't gotten there yet, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be
Yeah.
honest, I think it's a different strategy required than what community character and, public art, you know,
Thing.
group at this present time is really thinking about. Because their thought process is, we apply for a grant, right? We get, you know, $8,000-10,000 or whatever, and that paid for the paint. So it's not a serious public installation, because that requires significant fundraising, strategizing. If you went out for grants that might be available, there's always a time limit. And so whatever you're doing fundraising to generate, you know, $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever, they've gotta sync up. If they don't, you lose this.
Right.
So-
If you use it, you lose it.
Let me ask you a question, Jamie. If we were to do a big capital campaign for the 7th Avenue, the Maple Street redo of the bathrooms and the pavilion, you know, that goes further down for the market, where would you put that? Would you put that in this committee, or would you put that in community character? That's a big,
Mhm. I would say that the initial concept of it and the start of it, in my opinion, would be coming out of community character, because that is the outdoor public space. I mean, that does have indoor, but it's public space. It meant for it's all a part of incorporating into that outdoor space. And that subcommittee's already been talked this morning on what's next, 7th Avenue and public
Right.
space.
Jamie, concept,
Yeah, and then so you got to start with the concept, but I also think that then it goes to the board and city council to say, yay, go ahead, move ahead with it. And I'd rather it just stay in community character, because
I think like these subcommittees are an opportunity to like be efficient. What I don't want to do is somebody say, hey, I want to put a mural on my side of my building. Okay, go to community character, they'll tell you what you can do. Then go to economic vitality, that's how much you can spend. Then go to downtown board and they'll approve it or not.
that's what we're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
Like, I want to
Yeah,
sit.
so I'd rather that,
and
like,
be
yeah.
like community character, talk about this mural like crazy. Here's the 2-minute presentation. This is what it's gonna look like. This is where it's gonna go. And we say yes, because if it comes through them, it better be good enough to come in front of downtown.
Yeah,
if it's
but not the
not,
other
they
committees.
Stop it
Yeah.
right there. Then they need to stop it in that committee. And if they can't do that, well, they'll be able to do that.
So there's the potential for both of those things. Like we could operate independently and just focus on like one thing, we're just gonna do this thing. Or if there is a big project that requires everybody to get involved, we could all do that too.
There will be things, like if we had to tackle parking again, we would have to talk about it in every single meeting, every single committee. Like, that's just what it is, because it affects all of it. And
Maybe we should do both those things, like
Like there's the threshold.
Scale.
yeah, it's a
we're filtering things.
We should move on.
Well, if it's permanent, it would seem to be the economic vitality. If it's just aesthetic or temporary, you could cover up the paint again.
It's-
There.
I mean,
And if
that's,
you.
it's all encompassing.
If you want a facade grant for a mural, you go to community character. If you want a facade grant to replace your bricks, you come here, like that's inefficient, you know?
Yeah, I know, but that's kind of,
It is kind of what we're doing right now. a little
Move
bit.
past this.
We're
Stuck. We're at a stuck point.
We are.
We need to,
So yeah,
the strategies thing though, a big deal in the Gen X thing was about living, second store reutilization, and there's nothing here about that at all.
that could be under the purview of economic vitality.
Yeah, so let's think on kind of going on that too, and what we talked about. And I'd say let's take this public art conversation and we'll throw it over to community character because we talked a lot about that. In the next 1 to 2 years, in this committee, so people in this room and others, what do we want to have accomplished in those next couple of years? And I will say that just so we don't lose the things that we've talked about over the past couple of years is the property issues, I guess the things that Aaron has said too, and homelessness, stimulating businesses, and infrastructure.
Top of that, we've got Seventh Avenue opening up and the trailhead, the Acosta connection. Those are like the big things on the horizon that probably everybody's gonna have to address in some.
The Acosta thing is crucial, like, and even though I think there was a lot in the Gen H plan about that, I still had some of members of the public say that it wasn't enough, that like establishing that the level of impact was so high that they hadn't even hit it as high as it should be in the Gen H plan. And I mean, I thought it was pretty strong in the Gen H plan, but I mean, I know about all this stuff, right? So this is again, like the general public, they're up for that and they think it's being overlooked, which is crazy, but.
So let, and I'm adding downtown design guidelines because that's a priority that we
Yes.
said. So go kind of put a pin on that and go into the next part, because I think this is going to kind of continue that conversation. So what, the committee, getting lost on what page I was on. Let me just show y'all from this morning what we ended up with from the subcommittee from this morning. And so then we can kind of go from there of what this committee kind of wants to focus on. And so we had a lot of people here this morning. And so what we did talk about the acoustic connection too, but we did not really prioritize that just because it seemed like public art and 7th Avenue were an earlier priority. And so these are like the next steps for, the next month and the month after. There's a group of people who are focusing in on public art and the initial steps on public art planning, and then a group of people who are focusing on this immediate 7th Avenue opening and what those next steps are with that. And so taking those two things out of what this committee is doing, because it's already kind of focusing in on the other one,
Downtown design guidelines, that was a priority for the Gen H plan. That's a priority in planning. We decided we wanted that as a priority as a full board. That was like top of the list. And if we can get behind that, that will help planning accomplish yes, it is on the top of their list, but internally, I think it's the thing they really, really want to do. So we need to get behind that sooner rather than later.
Does that come to their work with municipal code changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to revisit what you brought up about living
Oh.
downtown. And I couldn't remember if you were coming back to that, Jamie, and if you are, I can wait, but I
I
didn't
might have
want.
forgotten. Go ahead and go with
Well,
what you're saying on that.
I'm reading, somebody's like downtown Hendersonville is the place for people to stop and enjoy. Well, how about adding live?
I live.
Live and stay.
Yeah, I get out of
Hey.
begin with that. And I mean, and when Fairmont comes online, but I mean, it's gonna start, that's gonna have a ripple effect up and down Main, because people are gonna go, oh. And they're gonna start looking for those second stories. That's really good, or can be good if it's prepared. Those living component, I think it's great that you brought that up.
And along those lines, I don't know if you've heard about residents that are downtown, but you have to think about it as its own 24-hour ecosystem, right? So trash pickup should not be at 5:30 in the morning if you want people to sleep in, or, your generators that are gonna have to get fired up every week, like what time are those done? Like, can you coordinate them? So there's a lot of that living aspect that is not takes time to figure out, and someone should be able to gather that feedback so that the residents feel like they're being listened to, as well as there can be ownership of those.
Because their needs, right now, you know, it's all about sort of visitors. And soon it's gonna be about residents. And what businesses follow residents are different, so you'll start to see like,
Yes.
You know, but going to, what Carolyn just said, that we did at our last board meeting, we spent the entire thing on basically talking about the design standard and, you know, adjusting elevations for downtown, which the guidelines or design guidelines, construction requirements, what gets allowed in advancing the ordinances for construction. That is going to motivate and drive creating perhaps a better ROI for adding, you know, investment to what is now a limited building. And we're talking about increasing the back 50% of the building for another story, which gives them better return on it. But that has to, as she said, it's got to be a priority. And I think, Jamie, that those, you know, we missed that this morning. We just skipped right over it. That has to be the fourth item. And
The design guideline?
yeah.
Yeah, it skipped over this morning because I think I'd rather it be in this committee.
Yeah, I mean, we have a 12 to 24 month timeline around what we were discussing this morning, right? There is no question Acusta, there's no question Seventh Avenue, right? But the guidelines, as mentioned, those are getting the micro focus from the council, from.
And if we prioritize and have that in place when Seventh Avenue and Costa Trail open to it.
And that's, I mean, the 4 items that we've got listed, that's a hell of a load.
That's a lot. I think it could be the whole year.
For two, you know, consider however you want to, but, you know, 1 board and 2 subcommittees, that's a workload.
The vacant the vacant buildings policy, I think that needs to come too. I mean, that has been.
Keep talking.
We keep talking about that. It was in Gen H, like, it was highly recommended. It's not actually that super difficult to do. It's just gonna have to take its time as bureaucracy goes. But that should be a priority. I liked what you said about live and stay. I think the vision statement that like, because we have stop, first of all, we
They didn't
shouldn't
like
be
the
using
word
the word stop at all.
Just say slow down.
Stop and enjoy, but it should be like live, stay and enjoy or something like that. But live and stay, I really liked. And in the vision, because that would be what our vision is too. That would include that.
They're trying to hit on like stop and smell the roses or whatever.
Yeah, but
It sounds like you're just making a stop on the way to where you're going. Slow down and play.
also like any kind of, not that we would use it in a campaign, but you just don't want the word stop.
Yeah.
Like you don't want the word no on your front door of a business. Like,
That was beat on this morning already.
was it?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, well, we'll stop talking about
Gotta go away.
stand. Okay, cool.
You would much rather be ahead, and I think this is what you're saying, because otherwise you're reacting.
Yes.
And then you're behind the 8 ball, a project's gotten through that someone doesn't like, or the community's not creating, you know, a sense of ownership over. And then, but there are things that you gotta realize when we do go to, someone's coming in to invest and develop, is they're gonna have to go through their process, but also through their lender's process. So like, I've seen communities make mistakes where they require activation on the ground floor, but they don't have the business incubator behind it to put a new business in a space like that. Or you don't have the pieces that connect the actual users to the space. So having a vacant space may be worse than actually, you know, not being able to have those systems.
Yes, but that's, and going back to that, I think, you know, from my vantage point, the 2 items are synergistic
Yeah.
even though they're coming out from opposite directions, right? One to deal with some management process to deal with property owners that won't invest. The other says, well, we're gonna create a better environment for you to invest in your building or unload it, right?
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Yeah, the
I guess
two,
like-
I think the two,
They work together. I guess
Come
I'm
together.
thinking about the vacant spaces, like of any parking lot. Like,
Oh, we're talking about
Oh.
buildings that are blighted.
that's, so that's where I'm like, my statement was mentioned more to the surface parking lot.
Okay.
The current vacant spaces that are not being invested in, absolutely, like. We're absolutely
Okay.
right on. So that has to be addressed almost first and foremost. in
Yeah.
that regard.
The other thing that I think will be a very, very long road, but we should keep on our list is the MSD expansion. And that should be here because it could be expanding our MSD. It could be an adjacent MSD. It could expand the downtown area. It's going to have to be talked about and tossed around a lot by a lot of different groups here, internally, planning, all of that. And it's a revenue source, and I think that we just need to keep talking about it. It'll be one of these things where we beat it to death, everybody does. And then at a certain point, 2.5 years from now, 3 years from now, somebody's gonna have to be like, all right, this is how we're gonna do them, like on the map, and this is the amount we're gonna charge for them, and this is what we're gonna do with them. But it's gonna have to be beat to death before that happens, probably. And it probably won't be us making that final call, but we will have needed to have a lot of lengthy conversations about it and thought about it thoroughly to give our input when that time comes.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to have included on here.
I looked at this from our minutes discussion on a bigger sense of what economic vitality should be focusing on. And we've hit, like, a lot of this little list is connected in either vacant buildings, like that's building code challenges are gonna be in a vacant building discussion. The Custa, lower trailhead branding, I mean, that's all in community character. So the only thing left was the MSD expansion and catalyzing properties, which sounds real cool, but I don't remember what we meant by that.
That was where, let me add this real quick, before I forget the lower trailhead branding. That was, the catalyzing properties was our problem property owners. And how, so we talked about, last month of, Phil and a couple of his older white dude pals getting together with some of the property owners was what the to try to incentivize our friends at HPL Properties to kind of light a fire under them was where that came from.
Okay.
Wasn't part of it also to know what buildings have a second story and all that?
I think that's the inventory.
Inventory?
Yeah,
Which we
and that.
started on this with this list that you got here, Jamie.
Yeah, so I've got that and there was one part of it that for some reason didn't get the rental rate. I have more of those for some reason that didn't get included in this spreadsheet. But this is something that just as kind of a next step if anyone wants to just kind of take a look through it and let me know because it's where we have problems with keeping up with the inventory of buildings are when there's multiple units, like because that are associated with a parcel and multiple owners that are associated with parcels. And so like just if you ever, not right now because there's a lot of them on there, but pick up any and look through if there's any as you look through it that are blanks that you have information for, that would be really, really helpful for me. The other one is downtown residential. Is kind of going on what we're talking about. is I don't have it in this spreadsheet, but I've got another one where I've been pulling together the total amount of units. And that I still could be missing some of the second floor units possibly, so I can have that for the next time around. And then also what we talked about last month was expanding this property list to outside of the MSDs, which will take a little bit more time on that.
So we need to wrap up soonish, but I think that these 3, 4 things are good goals. Like, so community characters got their plate full. We needed downtown design guidelines. This committee is looking for something to do. That should probably be our immediate focus, our immediate goal. We'll kind of have like, I'm envisioning something like long-term and short-term goals where like a long-term goal would be the trailhead opening. We're gonna be talking about that for months at a time, and maybe we'll visit that ongoing, but then we'll have smaller goals of something narrow focus, achievable. We can say we're gonna do this by next meeting, and then next meeting we'll say, hey, we achieved this, and wrap it up now, you know. And then as things come up and we say, you know, economic vitality, should talk about that, we could throw it into the kind of long-term goals of things. And
Yeah.
then they can building policy, I think that's.
Aaron, instead of taking this entire package, which would be rather daunting, if we were to break it into pieces and say, let's take, I don't know, two of the avenues, or several blocks of Main Street and fill in as much as we can on that first. At least we have a full database for part of it, rather than pieces of the whole thing. Don't help a lot.
How much longer are you here?
Here,
It's full time.
I'm full-time, yeah, so I never.
Wait. First, okay, I'm sorry. We have an intern also that, I'm sorry, we do for the summer.
And I.
Never mind.
I can introduce myself.
I knew that.
That I can.
That.
Here. So I'm in the planning department. My name is Sam Hayes. I was hired 2 months ago. And I am also in charge of the Historic Preservation Commission. So, part of the reason why, Jamie asked me to be here, we also have Kathy, our codes enforcement officer, online. To talk about, answer questions if you have them. But Kathy and I, have walked Main Street. Once since I've been hired, but she's done it before as well with the person who was in my position before me. So we are trying to build out our own database on information on these buildings, at least from the exterior, just to kind of see, you know, what building maintenance needs to be done from a historic preservation standpoint. You know, there are things that could be done right now to address some issues down the road, things like that. So all that to say, I didn't know, Jamie, that you had this big spreadsheet, but I think our information could come together and be a little bit more comprehensive as well. So we'll have to get together at some point. We can.
I like having the big list of everything, but I think John's right. We need to, once we have this, we can spot ways to focus.
And if you have more data, then if you combine it, then we'll see where we are with that before we try to, we just need to see what you got and what, yeah.
Rental rates and property owners. Like Jennifer.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of that filled in. It just was too much to print out on a spreadsheet.
Okay.
And so then once we have that inventory, then we can kind of target on some specific properties to talk with some of those owners.
And we have been as well. I think Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've sent letters. We haven't done any formal notice of violation. Well, we've done a few on a few of the buildings. But we try and reach out to people that we have contacts with. So HVL Properties, I heard you mention that. We actually want to sit down with them and have a conversation with them about their properties and the process that tenants need to go through to get approvals done, the certificate of appropriateness process.
Yeah,
So
we can talk on that some too, Sam, because I'm meeting with them sometime next week. So
Well, that would be excellent. Yeah, if we could.
You guys don't have to do the same thing twice, though.
Yeah, so And I think they're just.
Why we can have a meeting so you two could talk.
Um, and I think that there are things that the Historic Preservation Commission is doing or would want to do that is in line with like these goals as
After the
well.
meeting, yeah.
So, for example, the design guidelines, design standards. So there are design standards for the historic district, downtown historic district that they go by. And those need to be updated. They were done a while ago, and so I think, you know, collaborating with this group and the other groups that will be doing that work it's really important.
It'd be nice to know what those guidelines are.
Yeah, I can definitely share them, or Jamie, maybe we can send those
Yeah,
guidelines.
yeah, they're all, I'll send the link out, but it's,
So,
at hendersonvillehpc.org.
you're
But
on
that's just for the historic
Our-
district.
our last meeting, board meeting. uh, Addressing the guidelines, just as a conversation piece. And I suggested actually that we try to pull in. You know,
I'll just say
just
no.
a very few of the local, shall we say, proactive, hopefully, property owner, developers, builders, right? So, Dennis and just like, you know, the big elephant in the room, and have them sit down with us in discussion about, you know, this direction that, you know, the steamroller's coming, right? Now, we'd love to have, you know, input, feedback to, you know, give us your side of it, and, you know, we have a give and take over a period of time. And I've received positive feedback to joining those, discussions.
Great.
And I do think that there's probably some value on some of the separation on some of it too, because so then there's like, you know, the code enforcement side, that's like, you know, the city telling you what not to do, and then there's the business side of what the good value is in improving your building, that can be sometimes together conversations and sometimes separate conversations, depending on what we're talking about, probably.
One more little piece. Thank you for including the business updates in the agenda. That was on the list of what to do, monthly property updates, which we all just want to hear about, but I don't think we need to dwell on it for forever, every month.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want that, like, it could be on the agenda under old business. You could include this exact chart and just update it every month. Aaron, what do you want to see every other month? I mean, it might be easier every month. I don't know. You take it from there.
Of updating the properties.
Well, this is the businesses. The properties is like a whole booger of stuff and they're gonna get together with it, but this is like what's happening inside the building. This is buildings and this is business. It's
It changes a lot. I would like to see it kind of updated regularly.
What is a Wildness Cafe?
So that is going in where Moe's Barbecue was.
Oh.
They've just moved a bunch of stuff in last week, and so what their plans are is they're gonna have some amount of it open they want to have something open before the Apple Festival, whether it's all of it or not. They had a retail shop and music, like music shop and music lessons, but very different from Tempo in Colorado. And so they've moved here. And so they've already got kind of their shop system set up, and they probably have a lot of their inventory, but they're also adding a cafe component to it. So it'll probably have a coffee. They haven't kind of worked all of that part out yet. And light breakfast, light lunch, like a grab and go type of thing is the last plans that they had told me. I think it's going to be pretty nice though.
You don't have bone in
It's on there.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
Is it? I just, oh yeah, it is, sorry.
Yeah, and what as I was kind of looking through it and everything, there is, you know, you'll hear people say a lot of things about, a lot of empty buildings, but there's a lot of things coming in and going, like, even though there's things going, there's a lot of things coming in. So there are only just a few spaces available. In fact, the, just Ducky at 429 North Main Street, they're leaving, and it's the guy just came by my office the other day. He was signing a lease. It was some type of art gallery type of space. He's already planning on going in. And then also where Second Act used to be, Stump Farm was doing a pop-up, but it's sounding like they're probably going in as a more permanent type of space there.
I don't know. I talked to him yesterday and he said there were several possibilities.
Yeah, so that is, there's something that's going to be going into that space. That seems to change a lot every kind of time I hear something else, but it's kind of actively moving currently. I still might be missing a couple of spaces on here, so if y'all see anything, let me know, just in case I've missed something on my sheet.
Something we did talk about before that we'll need to pick back up again at a later time. This is a lot of transition, a whole lot, which I know that this is what we're doing right now in downtown. 2 years from now, year or two from now, we still need to go back and do a business inventory and figure out leakage. And that's what, like, when we're examining the MSD thing, like all of that's gonna tie into there. So I know we have a pretty good inventory, but we need to look at it. I think the deeper dive, but I don't think that's a priority list thing. I just don't wanna not come back to that at some point.
Yeah, and that's where if anyone can take a look at that spreadsheet and see if there's any, particularly on the units and second floor office spaces, that's where it's harder to find. But we've got a pretty good list of most of the businesses, and so this has the data from that spreadsheet plus some other things, and this is linked in there is what I've got kind of as a dashboard of all of the businesses that are in both of the districts and the mix by business type and also by square footage. But it is probably missing some second floor units of things, and also employment, which some of that's some educated guesses on that.
All right, I'll go through that.
So that's all, it's something you can get. I typically have been able to just update it every year. I'm going to try to, now that there's so many things, so many moving parts right now, I'm going to try to get it updated more regularly. And if I give this as a report each month, I'll be able to do that a little bit easier.
I think this is good framework to move forward on. Talked about a lot. And next time we'll narrow it down.
All right. Thank y'all. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Appreciate the information, and I'll put it all together for the downtown board for next week.
The motion to adjourn.
Moved.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any way volunteers can help to fill this information in?
Sure. Take that paper and